Gospel is John 19, 1 to 12 and 16. It's the New Testament, page 113. Then Pilate took Jesus and had him flogged, and the soldiers wove a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they dressed him in a purple robe. They kept coming up to him saying, "Hail, King of the Jews," and striking him on the face. Pilate went out again and said to them, "Look, I am bringing him out to you to let you know that I find no case against him." So Jesus came out, wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe. Pilate said to them, "Here is the man." When the chief priests and the police saw him, they shouted, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" Pilate said to them, "Take him yourselves and crucify him. I find no case against him." The Jews answered him, "We have a law, and according to that law he ought to die, because he is claimed to be the Son of God." Now when Pilate heard this, he was more afraid than ever. He entered his headquarters again and asked Jesus, "Where are you from?" But Jesus gave him no answer. Pilate therefore said to him, "Do you refuse to speak to me? Do you not know that I have power to release you and power to crucify you?" Jesus answered him, "You would have no power over me unless it had been given you from above. Therefore, the one who handed me over to you is guilty of a greater sin." From then on, Pilate tried to release him, but the Jews cried out, "If you release this man, you are no friend of the emperor. Everyone who claims to be a king sets himself against the emperor." Then he handed him over to them to be crucified. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. One of my favorite Shakespeare plays is King Henry V. And one of my favorite scenes from the play is when Henry is attempting to negotiate his claim to France and prevent war between the two nations, which has been going on and on for many years. You know, it's called the 100 Years' War. According to Shakespeare, when Henry sent a demand for France to concede several disputed areas of land and recognize Henry's title over those areas, the answer that the king received was not from King Charles VI, but from the Dauphin, who was the heir apparent to King Charles' throne. In the play, Henry had had a reputation for being something of a pleasure seeker and a slacker. That was before he ascended to the throne. And it was from that belief that the Dauphin sent a box of tennis balls as a sarcastic response to Henry's demands. Henry's answer to the insult continued the 100 Years' War and led to the legendary Battle of Agincourt, which is really the heart of Shakespeare's drama. Interestingly, it is not a stretch to say that Shakespeare's inclusion of the tennis ball story was one of the earliest examples in history of what we might call today an urban legend. It never happened. But clearly, Shakespeare and his contemporary readers wanted to believe that it happened. Not just because it's a good story, but because the Dauphin's answer of tennis balls created the kind of clarity that would justify the terrible and bloody war that would follow. Whether true or not, the drama reveals a basic understanding of statecraft. A ruler's questions must be answered and answered correctly if there are not to be dire consequences to the one being questioned. The story that we have shared from the Passion of Christ in John's Gospel is a perfect example of arrogance and power expecting an answer from a question and not getting it. Pontius Pilate represented the military and the legal power of the Roman Empire. And he was a man, as we would know, used to getting answers from those who were under his authority. According to John, Pilate had already interrogated Jesus and found his original answers to be non-threatening, if not the Pilate himself, totally insane. He takes Jesus back to his accusers and offers them the opportunity to release Jesus as an act of mercy. When Jesus' accusers choose to release the convicted thief Barabbas over Jesus, Pilate knows he has to provide some kind of punitive answer to Jesus' accusers. And so he has him flogged and publicly ridiculed. But that is not the answer that the leaders of the temple or the council of Jerusalem desire. Their answer to Pilate's judgment is to remind the governor that Jesus had claimed to be the Son of God, a formal title in Rome used only for the emperor. Now, Pilate is in a political dilemma. It would have been easy for him to simply hand Jesus over to the guards at that moment to be crucified. But again, he brings Jesus back into the Presidio and asks him another question. Where are you from? Jesus gives him no answer. Pilate therefore said to him, quote, "Do you refuse to speak to me? Do you not know that I have power to release you and power to crucify you?" Jesus answered him, "You would have no power over me unless it had been given you from above." In the Gospel of John, Jesus' answer to Pilate and the power of Rome was to proclaim an even greater power. A power that rendered all of Pilate's questions empty and useless. Clearly, the governor is shaken by Jesus' words, because according to John, from then on, Pilate tried to release him. But God had an answer to the power of human sin that no law, no religion, nor ruler could satisfy. Jesus' silence to Pilate's question was his answer to the Father, an answer so loud that it still reverberates in the world today. Because of Jesus' answer to his Father in his death and resurrection, he gave the world and every heart in it a question. Do you believe? Do you believe? If you do not think that Jesus' question to the world is a difficult one, just look on the social network or in any human interaction where that question is asked. The identity of Jesus of Nazareth is the greatest debate in the history of humanity, raising passions for or against that are just as intense today as they have been for 2,000 years. The answer to that question, do you believe, has yielded conflict and bloodshed and is still a source of turmoil, not just in the world, but in the human heart. Sometimes it feels like that question has created so many wrong answers that it never should have been asked to begin with. And that is why many desire nothing more than for the Church of Jesus Christ to go away and for the person of Jesus Christ to fade into historical obscurity. But there is a right answer to Christ's question, do you believe? And this morning, as we gather around this table, it is our answer to the Lord and to the world. It is an answer not of judgment, but of grace. It is an answer not of hatred, but of love. It is an answer not of power, but of mercy. Not of division, but reconciliation. It is an answer not of despair, but of hope. Often it seems like the world does not hear the answer of this table at all. Even in our own lives, we just don't hear it. But we also have to remember that our answer at this table is not to the world or even to ourselves, but to God and to a transcendent promise that demands of us patience and faith. Think about any question that is asked of us to which we begin the answer with the words, I believe. Do you think this is right? Well, I believe so. Do you think that's the truth? Well, I believe it is. Now, that's not the kind of answer that Pilate expected, nor anyone else desires. The world wants answers that supply facts and guarantee outcomes. And Pilate got that answer from Jesus' accusers and provided his own answer when he crucified the Messiah. At least it seemed to them to guarantee an outcome. But Pilate's answer really wasn't the truth, because he is gone, and Rome is gone, and Jesus' accusers are gone, and Christ remains. That is why we come to this table, providing every question in this world and every question in our hearts with an answer that begins with two words. I believe. We believe. This is our answer because it is the only one that doesn't end in sin and sorrow and death. This is our answer not because we haven't seen the truth, but because we have seen love. A love like no other. And so we gather this day, this moment, saying to the world, saying to each other, saying to ourselves, here is our answer. We believe, not because we don't know, but because we are known and loved and forgiven. And because we are known and loved and forgiven, we know and we love and we forgive. How could we answer any other way? Here is our answer to the world. God loves us, and we love you.